If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this is
Pat O.
And also
Jeff Craig.
Oh my gosh, you guys, we have had so many more guests than we have ever had on the entirety of the whole show in this 1 month, right? Am I right, Pat?
Yeah, it's been a pretty full roster, but you know what? The fans are loving it, and I enjoy the variety.
And every single one of them have been from the Midwest.
Right. Our show gets a little poly sometimes. It's nice to invite strangers into the bedroom and talk to them.
Well, thanks for being here, Jeff. I'm super excited to talk to you. I'm super excited to
me too.
Have people listen. Oh yeah, people. I tell everybody about your map, and we'll get into that. But Pat, how was your weekend?
It was pretty good. Friday, I took my kid to his first Bulls game. My son's godfather is friend of the show, Lee Jacobson of JacobsonLegalServices.com. And
we had him on the show.
Yeah, a previous guest from the Midwest. He hooked Connor up with Bulls tickets as a Hanukkah present this year. So my son is like starting to play basketball, and obviously I have no idea how to connect with him on this because I've never played sports in my whole entire life. And he's like kind of halfway decent at it too. So this is really good because this is like where Lee takes over being the professional, ex-professional athlete. He can kind of come in and be like, oh, this is how you bond with your kid over sports. You take them to sporting events and shit. So
wow.
that was Friday. And then honestly, my wedding anniversary was the 9th. So I kind of get to skate through Valentine's Day. But it also sometimes turns into just like a 5-day slog of like romantic fucking shit. So like the 9th through the 14th was like sporadic date night every other night or whatever, which wasn't the worst thing in the world. It sounds like I'm being negative about it. I'm totally not. But that was like a whole theme this week.
But did you get laid?
I had to fight for it, but I won.
Don't say that.
And I mean, sometimes you got to take it, you know what I mean? Like,
you're supposed to be like, no, of course. And it was the best ever. She's the best ever.
I mean, I had a fucking hell of a time, but
you don't know if she did?
No, she survived it, No, it was all right.
All right, I'll stop asking about your personal life now. We had a very interesting weekend, and I'm sure Jeff can relate here because it was Super Bowl weekend.
Yeah.
Oh yeah! Congratulations! Oh no, you guys lost.
No,
sorry.
well, yeah.
That's how much of a jack I am. It took me a minute to realize, like, no, you guys are in the fucking Ohio.
I am still hungover emotionally from this Super Bowl fiasco.
I told my daughter I don't want to be an Ohioan anymore. I feel and I don't watch football. I don't even know how the game is fucking played. I didn't even understand it. So it still felt bad at the end.
I've never really been a fan of the Bengals, but they're doing so well. It's just great for the city. And Pat, I grew up in Chicago, so I had the '85 Bears when I was in high school that won the Super Bowl. I mean, that was a team. That was crazy.
Right. That always seemed like people always talk about the '85 Bears. It's like, that's 1 year. I grew up in the era of the Bulls, which was a fucking dynasty. You know what I mean? Where
repeats,
to repeat the three-peat. So it's one thing
to repeats,
win one championship 1 year, okay, good for you, and then someone else does. But I think about the Bulls, I think about the Hawks, who had like dynasties that like went on and like won multiple championships year after year after year. That to me is more impressive. I mean, but also, to you Bengals fans, all I could say is like, once again, being from Chicago, I've gone through the Cubs thing, and we eventually had our time. And man, what a great night that was. And you guys didn't get that night on Sunday, but you know what? You're going to get that night at some point in your lives, and you're going to make the most of it, hopefully.
I don't know. Probably not. Just kidding.
Well, I grew up a Cubs fan, being in the suburbs in the 70s and 80s. So I waited a long time for the Cubs as well. And I've learned the phrase, there's always next year.
Right.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Well, anyway, so I mean, it was Super Bowl Sunday. Jeff, did you have how was your weekend? What did you do?
I was prepping for the game, and Sunday came, and I had my snacks and drinks out, and just watched the game. I paced around the house, and so I'm still eating the leftovers. I'm having shrimp cocktail, and
Oh wow. Oh yeah.
hopefully it's still good. Yeah.
You'll have to let us know tomorrow. This might be the last time anybody hears from Jeff. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting when it's your, because even though, again, like I said, I don't understand how football works. I'm not a sports ball person either, and probably a lot of the people listening to the show probably aren't either, right?
Right.
But when it's happening in your own backyard, there's something magical about it, and
Oh yeah.
you know,
I'm not a big baseball fan, but that last series where the Cubs won the championship, like I was out at the bar for every one of those games. I know I know when there's a good party afoot. You know what I
Right.
mean? I don't give a shit
Right.
what it's associated with. I'm fucking there, man.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I'm sure it was the same thing with you guys with the Super Bowl. Like, fair weather fan or not, who cares? It's
Yeah, everyone came out. It was everyone.
Right.
I went to Kroger Sunday morning, the local grocery store, and everyone was in Bengals gear. It was just they were out of cream cheese. There was just all kinds of shenanigans going on.
Some schools were closed on Monday.
wow.
Yeah, I was like, well, that's surprising. I mean, I just think it's interesting because Jeff is also in Ohio. I'm in Dayton, and I don't know, Jeff, if you want to disclose where you're at or not, but
Yeah, I'm in Cincinnati.
right.
Mhm.
So we're fairly close to each other, probably about 40 minutes,
Mhm.
and so, and I know Jeff gets this. Everybody has pride for like their general demographics, right? All of us here as Midwesterners, we have Midwestern pride, but I'd say nothing
Mhm.
is. I feel like nothing exhibits more camaraderie than Ohioans, which is weird because we're assholes to each other. But when it's us against somebody else, we're like, fuck you, OHIO, that's how we are. And so it was very fun to kind of see that energy, play out with this Super Bowl thing. And I just wish that it could be like that all the time, but we can't.
It's got to be a different dynamic growing up in a state like Ohio, because you guys have so many. I mean, you don't have a Chicago, but you have a lot of. If Chicago is like an A-tier city, which I insist that it is, then you guys have a decent number of like B and C-tier cities,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
where there's and in Illinois, there's not. There's fucking Chicago.
Yeah,
there's
that's true.
Naperville, which is like our best suburb.
Shout
and
out to Naperville. That's my
Right.
hometown.
Naperville.
Yes.
And then, but other than that, like, what is there really in Illinois? Like fucking Springfield, like down by the farmers, like whatever. Like
Oh.
we don't,
No,
we
you
don't.
were, yeah,
Yeah.
you were.
Whereas
You were right. Mhm.
with Ohio, I could see like Cincinnati people being like, "Fuck Cleveland people," and Cleveland people being like, "Oh, those Ohio fucking or those Toledo weirdos." You know what I mean? Where there's
Yeah.
like some kind of like schism between y'all.
There's a huge Cleveland-Cincinnati rivalry, and you're talking to a geography major here, so I totally get what you're saying. Chicago is what they call a primate city. It's the only big city in the state, but Cincinnati has Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, Dayton, Toledo, Akron. It's really interesting that we have so many big cities,
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
and it's spread out, and it does make a difference.
Yeah, I don't care who, some people are like, well, Ohio is just a flyover state. Well, it absolutely is not. Well, interestingly enough, we'll kind of get in more into that as the episode progresses. But that was really it. I mean, the Super Bowl was a big thing here. I didn't really do much else, but that's okay. I am going to start doing this thing, and I know that people probably are not going to like it, but sometimes we like to talk about the other things that we do in our careers. And I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping and advertising. So if you don't mind, first of all, if you listen to the show and you like the show, whether it's your first time here or you are a repeat offender, whatever it is you're listening on, if you can rate the show, rate it, give it a rating, leave it a review, let us know that you like it. It actually helps a lot more than you guys think it does. If you're on YouTube, give it a like, give it a share, subscribe to the channel. If you're on Apple, give it a review, or maybe you think the show sucks. Say that. Hey, the show sucks. I don't like it. I don't know. Just talk about it. The more you talk about it, good or bad, the more it feeds into the algorithm. So that would be really nice if you could help out there. I also did a number of shows recently, and I didn't talk about this last week, and I should have. I just debuted my new show with Ryan Tremblay called Monster Radio. You guys should probably listen to that if you like this show. It's I'm not gonna say the tagline Pat came up for it, but it's a little more adult, is what I'm gonna say. And it's definitely geared more towards specifically cryptids. But we did do the first episode on the Wendigo and kind of the connection between the Wendigo and cryptozoology. Because spoiler alert, it's not really a cryptid. But there will be lots of that over there. So go check out Monster Radio.
Hold on. What's my tagline that I came up with? I don't remember at all.
It's for people that don't fuck.
I am fucking funny.
Yeah,
I am so fucking funny, and I don't remember any of it. I'm so glad that I have people around me to document things.
Yeah, because if you don't, if you're not aware, the tagline for this show is it's like coast to coast AM for people that fuck, and so Monster Radio is for people that don't fuck. So it's on Wednesdays we talk weird, but for people that don't fuck. So it's because it's a little more adult. So but that I actually might run with that. I don't. We'll see. Ryan, what do you think? Let me know. Anyway. So that is Monster Radio. I also just finished up recording a 4-part series on another show called The Infinite Rabbit Hole. Really awesome. The whole entire 4-part series is about Injured Cold. And let me tell you something. These fucking guys did their homework. First of all, I'm on there and it's 3 other guys, and you got Jeremy, who is kind of a lot like us. He kind of, he has a pretty good deal of skepticism, but he wants to believe in these things. And then you have Jake, who is a devout Christian man. And then you have Jeff, not this Jeff, a different Jeff, who thinks that space isn't real. So, he's gone that far, towards the end there of the abyss. But they all make it work. Even though they all have such wildly different views, they make it work. They don't argue. They just present their side of it and move on. However, these people fucking did their homework on Injured Cold, and I'm embarrassed to say that I think their 4-part series is way better than our 1 episode on the guy. So go check that out. I also I was back over on the Bloody Bits horror show podcast. I did 2 episodes over there. One was the Valentine's Day special for Necromantic. If you are a fan of that movie or like necrophilia at all, who doesn't? Go check that out. And also Paranormal Activity, which is not my favorite, but I was there for it. So that. And then more. Here's more. I got more. 2 events coming up. That is March 12th. I will be in Erie, Pennsylvania, at an event hosted by Erie Eric and Creepy Carrie. If you guys don't know who they are, they're both on Instagram. You should definitely follow them. But I will be the master of ceremonies for an event there that you don't want to miss out. I'll actually be live interviewing people that have had encounters with high strangeness. So that'll be neat. We will also have a private area set up. So if you have your own encounter, but you aren't comfortable sharing that publicly, you can come speak with me privately about it. And that's just between you and I. I guess kind of like, what is it when you're in when you're a Catholic, confessionals or whatever, confessions with the priest. It's like that, but you saw aliens or whatever. And then also, we'll have a booth at the Wytheville UFO Festival in Wytheville, Virginia. I think that's June 11th. So stay posted for that. That's all I have to shill this week. Did I do a good job?
You made me want to listen to everything you're on.
Good. Wonderful. Awesome. So I got some news. I don't have some news. I got the news. I got 1 news today to share, which was really cool. So apparently, some people studying chimpanzees in West Africa, following around a specific little group of chimpanzees, found that the chimps are chewing up bugs and using the chewed up bug as medication. But not only are they using it as medication, they're actually using it on each other. And so they are treating ailments. Now, there's not a lot of information of what bugs they're using exactly, but it was observed twice in the same week. One was a mother chimp with her baby who seemed to have a hurt foot of some sort that caught some flying bug, chewed it up, and rubbed that paste, I guess, on his foot. And then another one was actually one particularly hurt chimpanzee with 3 others around that helped apply this chewed up bug paste to the hurt one. So that is really cool, but it's also really scary. Does anybody have thoughts on this?
What do they think the paste does?
It's some type of medicine to treat whatever ailments they have. They're using it as medicine. They don't know what it does. This is kind of like this is like breaking news situation. Mm-hmm. They haven't been able to observe exactly what it is they're using and what it might possibly do. But they're just observing that they're using medications, and animals don't. Can you think of any other animal that uses medicine? Because there aren't any. This has never been observed before.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a first for me. I know, isn't it dog saliva supposed to kind of help with certain ailments, maybe? I don't know.
And I think different animals do have different abilities like that. Like you said, dog saliva, cats even, they also have a disinfectant type, but that's not the same thing as using an outside source.
Right. That's just kind of like licking yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're being like positive effects to it. It's like, right. Oh, they probably would have licked themselves anyway. But yeah, this is utilizing tools basically. You know what I mean?
It is. And so it's pretty amazing. Like I said, it's very cool, but also kind of very scary.
Well, you would think that we should be seeing, so we've been studying these animals for probably like documenting, studying, really in a modern way, probably for let's say 200-300 years. Right. You think that over the past couple hundred years and all of their exposure to mankind, there should be some kind of evolution amongst these creatures. Humans definitely have. We're using, bigger tools, and we're building, bigger fucking, knives and shit. Our stuff is all upgrading. Why shouldn't the animals be upgrading as well? If evolution is something we seriously subscribe to, we should see it throughout all of these species, not just us. We've obviously evolved the farthest, but that doesn't mean that we can't see traces of it in primates, especially higher level ones, or dolphins or whatever.
I think that there have been other examples, kind of. I like to talk about Coco a lot. I'd love to do an episode just on Coco, the gorilla.
That's the sign language one?
Yeah, I learned sign language. I fucking love that story so much. Maybe we will one day just because it's fun. But Coco was very different because, even though they had chimpanzees or, even some primates that were learning things because of muscle memory or reward and consequences type, just the same shit you can use to train a dog with, right? Coco was not that. Coco was showing signs of sentience. She was relaying her own emotions and things constantly. And so it's not like we haven't seen intelligence beyond just, hey, I'm an animal before. But this is different. They've obviously adapted. This is likely new since it's not something we've observed before, that they have been able to learn how to do. So that'll be really fun to watch. You have people that dedicate their entire fucking lives to go live with monkeys in the wild. And so we would have seen this before, and we did not. So interesting. But yeah, I thought that was a really cool story.
And we are starting to see insects as a protein source. At the local supermarket, Jungle Jim's, which is a local international market, they have dried crickets in the bag that you can buy to eat.
Yeah, they do. And you're right. People have kind of talked about that before because it's actually a very good protein source compared to regular meats.
There's a lot of it available.
There's a lot available. It's cheaper. It is more environmentally friendly. People have posed the idea of switching.
I'm not eating fucking crickets. Just stop.
Have you ever had one?
No, I don't feel the need to eat that weird shit. Candy.
Dipped in chocolate?
Bugs? No.
I've never eaten one. I don't know.
I haven't either.
I put all kinds of shit in my mouth, but I draw the line with that.
You can get the suckers and stuff with little scorpions and shit in it. It's all kinds of shit you can get at Jungle Jim's is crazy.
Yeah. It's great.
It's pretty wild. Well, that was Jeff might remember. I think it was back in 2020. Remember when they found the shark head on the shore of the Ohio River or the Miami River?
No,
You didn't
I
see
did
that?
not.
Yeah, they found a whole entire nurse shark head on on right off of the
Hmm.
Miami River in Ohio,
Oh,
and
wow.
everybody was like, "Well, okay, so there's a whole shark head. Where did the rest of it go? And how
Hmm.
did it get in the river?"
Why was it there? Yeah.
So it ended up coming out that a lady apparently had purchased the shark head from Jungle Gyms and left it there. Well, she actually dumped it in the river and just thought, well,
Mm-hmm.
that's what you do with it. And she got in trouble. She got in
It
trouble for
washed
that.
ashore,
It
and
washed
then
ashore, yeah. And
that's amazing they were able to track it down.
that is well, she came forward and was like, "That's my shark head." So I'm surprised you don't remember that. No, it was weird. It was a strange story. But that was cool. Anyway, so that was really all I had in the news this week. We'll pick that back up again next week or in a future episode. I'm really going to be watching this chimp stuff. I'm really fascinated by it. So I hope that there's more to come. I hope we can find out what bugs they are and if there is any, maybe we can test and see if there's any truth to the medicinal purposes of them. So because
Mhm.
there probably is. But anyway, so Jeff, who are you? What do you do?
Who am I?
Do you know
I'm just
who
a
you are?
guy.
Okay.
I'm just a guy. I like maps. I grew up enjoying a map, a good road atlas in the 70s. You go to a gas station and you get the free map of the state and you unfold it. And on family vacations, we're driving around Illinois, radiating out in every direction from the Chicago suburbs. We're going up to the Wisconsin Dells, or we're going down to the Lake of the Ozarks, or driving to Florida, whatever. I'm following along with the maps. So that was just kind of how I grew up, just enjoying maps. And so I'm a map guy. I do maps for a living with the local utility company. And so, that's just my interest. It's also a hobby. And I've been able to make it, my profession as well.
Okay, so it was maps that did it for you. It wasn't high strangeness that created.
Oh, I was into that
okay,
too.
all right.
It was like kind of a melding of two interests.
Okay,
Growing up in the 70s, I was born in 68, so when I was 9 years old, 1977, Close Encounters of the Third Kind comes out, and go to see that in the theater, and that just blows you away. The special effects, Steven Spielberg, and I've got a story for that. Maybe I'll share later about some things that affected Spielberg that ended up in Close Encounters.
sure.
Some real life stories in Ohio. But what kid isn't interested in that? There's it's prevalent in our culture and our TV. Growing up, 1970s, you have In Search Of. I know everyone always mentions that show.
Yeah.
And of course, I watched that. Leonard Nimoy, and he hit the highlights. He hit Loch Ness Monster, and I think the Nazca Lines, all the weird, mysterious stuff.
Sure.
And then I'm getting books when I'm in junior high school, like Mysteries of the Unexplained, the Reader's Digest condensed version of all these different weird and unexplained mysteries. Some of them are paranormal, some of them are cryptid, some of them are D.B. Cooper, some of them are, it rained frogs in some weird place. So yeah, that stuff really always just heightened my interest.
Okay. So then when did you decide to start putting this stuff on a map of your own?
I had a moment, and you'll love this because I know you're a Mothman.
Oh yeah.
Person. I watched the movie. One of my best friends, Brian, shout out to Brian in Indianapolis. We went to the video store. Remember those?
Oh yeah, I remember those.
2004.
I used to work at one. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah.
Nice. We grabbed Mothman Prophecies. I didn't see it in the theaters. I saw it it was probably DVD, 2004, and at this point, I'm in Cincinnati. I came to Ohio from Illinois to go to college, and I ended up staying. So I've been in Ohio now longer than I, was in Illinois. But
Sure.
so I'm in Cincinnati watching the Mothman Prophecies in 2004, and I'd never heard of it. And so I'm like, this is supposed to be loosely based on a true story. So I look it up, and I see that it's right down the river from Cincinnati, a
Right.
couple hours. And I'm like, what the heck? Why have I never heard of this? Obviously, it took place a long time ago before I was born, but still, it really just piqued my interest. So we had to go to Point Pleasant. I mean, that just, it pulls you in.
Sure.
So I think it was probably a week or two later, we made a road trip. I had my kids were very little at the time, like single digits, packed them in the car, and we all drove to Point Pleasant, and we were driving around, and I mean, it was dark by the time we got there. We saw the Mothman statue. The eyes are glowing in the dark. And, from the reflection of the flash photography or whatever we were doing. So that just was amazing to me. Like this happened. And, I was already I was doing mapping for a living, exploring street maps, nothing really of interest. But I had done another map before I got into this, and it was a map where I pinpointed things that deal with Scottish American culture, because I play drums in a bagpipe band. So I made a map of the U.S. and I pinpointed all the pipe bands in the U.S. and Canada. Believe it or not, there are 650 pipe bands in America.
Wow.
And like the different Highland games and Celtic festivals and stuff like that. So that was my first foray into like a special interest map.
Okay.
So that came out in like 2001. And so it wasn't a big leap to then say, why not pinpoint paranormal stuff?
Right.
And so I kind of had to do it myself. It was really just a labor of love. And I'm like, well, what else is going on out there? Like, if I didn't know about Mothman, what else am I missing? And, 2004, 2005, the internet was around, but it wasn't anything like it is today.
Right.
So, I was poking around, and then, I was kind of just reaching out and looking for things. And I got connected with a couple of good people in Ohio that helped me, learn about some of the different hauntings and cryptids and other unusual things. And one is Jim Willis, who is the founder and director of a paranormal research group called Ghosts of Ohio. And at the time, he was actually writing a book called Weird Ohio. You all know the Weird Ohio, or the Weird U.S. series.
Yeah, I talk about it a lot. I actually saw him. One of my first forays into it was because I saw him speak at the local library.
Nice.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So
he's still doing it. He's still out there. If you look him up on Facebook or Instagram, I'm giving a shout out, a plug, and we're actually collaborating. He's writing a book right now on lore and legend of Southern Ohio, and he's working on the Athens pentagram, which I mapped for the Hidden Ohio map I did. And so he and I were talking about that. So that'll be coming out for him this year. And he wanted to use, my map and, learn about how I went and found the cemeteries for that pentagram. It's a 5-star, obviously, pentagram around this town, Athens, Ohio. We all know Athens now because Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow is from Athens.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so there's 5 cemeteries outside of Athens, and if you connect the dots, they form a pentagram with Athens right in the middle. But so that's kind of a weird, like, why is that there? Who found that, and does it mean anything? So Jim's exploring that in the book. But I got connected with Jim, back when I was researching the map, and he was researching his the book Weird Ohio, and I just started putting pinpoints on the map, and after a while, I thought, I dig this. I wonder if there's other people that would like to see this, and then I got thinking, well, maybe I will get this, published and make it available for other people.
Wow. And that's so I know that we were kind of talking. Okay, I'll start over. Because we were initially mutuals on social media. but we were both Ohio natives. And then we had met each other at CryptidCon.
Hmm.
And what I guess what you didn't know, or I guess maybe you might have known at the time, I'm not sure. But we've been mapping, these instances of high strangeness, because documentary number 2 is about high concentrated areas of high strangeness. And so a really important tool to that is mapping it, right? And so
Right.
I was like, well, holy shit, here's a guy that's already done it. That's great. I was like, that's wonderful. I had purchased the map before we had met. I had purchased not the Ohio map, but I had purchased the US map.
Uh-huh.
So that was the first one that I'd gotten. And then I got the Ohio map from you.
Hmm.
At CryptidCon. And so, it is, it's amazing. I mean, the stuff that's on there, because it's not just, I think one of the biggest things that I was impressed with was that it's not just, the usual hits, right? It's not just the classics. It's got more than that.
Right.
And like we've talked about, it is, it's virtually impossible. Well, it's not virtually it's possible to map everything, I guess, if you have the time, but it is impossible to do it on paper, to map every single
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. This is a paper map.
Right.
And, I did the Ohio map first. It came out in 2007. It's a very detailed map of Ohio. It's more detailed than the road map, the map you get for free from the
Yeah.
state of Ohio. But I slapped 300 haunted spots on it. Um, dozens of cryptid sightings, some of the key UFO sightings. But again, like I was telling you before, you could fill up the map with Bigfoot sightings, UFO
Right.
sightings, so much to the point where the map would become illegible. And I didn't want that to happen. It would be great to see that where, you put a dot everywhere somebody saw something, and maybe that would be of use in another way. But for my purposes,
Right.
I wanted to make more of an artistic map. And so what I did was, for Bigfoot sightings, yeah, they're all over the state, but they're concentrated in different areas, especially southeastern Ohio, because it's the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, and it's less populated, it's more forested, it's hilly. So I did put more sightings there. I picked and chose. I thought should pick some of the kind of the more classic ones. I'm reading through reports on, for example, BFRO.org, a
Yeah.
Bigfoot Research Organization, where you can go in and read the people's submissions that they wrote. Some of them, someone just heard something or they smelled something. I tried to pick the ones that gave the most kind of classic example and detail, it's hard to say like which one is real or not, but
Sure.
you kind of know when you start to read them,
Yeah.
which ones are you shift through them. So
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. So you and I know we were talking about the Ohio map, and you're getting ready to, well, I don't know if you have yet. I think you're still getting ready to release the fourth edition of the Ohio map, is that
right.
right?
Hmm.
And
I am.
so yeah, right. And so you were mentioning, I was like, well, what kind of things do you update on it? Can you go ahead and explain that for the audience, maybe, of why there's different editions of the map?
Yeah, I printed the first edition, and it came out in 2007, and this was my first try at this, and so it did well. It sold about 5,000 maps in about a year, and then there was, because it was a first edition, there were some errors I saw, some
Sure.
typos. I didn't like the paper it was printed on. It was a type of paper kind of like the cover of Time magazine, where
Okay.
when you unfold the map over and over, it starts to tear
Mm-hmm.
at the fold. So I wanted to do a second edition pretty quickly, and part of that was changing the type of paper it was on, but also correcting a couple of the typos. So I did a second edition, printed, I think, 5 or 10,000 copies, and those sold around the state for about a year or two. And then there were a couple other things I wanted to tweak, and a couple of updates. People are emailing me and messaging me and saying, "Oh, this is supposed to be that," or "Why don't you have this on there?" And so I'm looking at things. So I added a few more for a third edition, which came out in I think 2011, and that's been it. So for about 10 years, I've just kept reprinting this third edition because I thought I was really happy with it. But it's been 10 years. A lot of things have changed. Partly just the base map. There are new highways. There's a huge bypass around Portsmouth, Ohio.
Mhm.
There's a huge 10,000 acre wildlife area in Brown County, east of Cincinnati, which is now preserved space that I want to show on the map. Uh,
Sure.
but this is a map that shows mostly paranormal stuff. That's what people really buy the map for. So I wanted to add ones that people said you should have this one on the map, or you should have that. And there are also ones that have kind of gone away. Two that come to mind right off the bat is one that most Ohioans know about. It's called Mud House Mansion.
Hmm.
And it was private property. It was an old mansion. It was abandoned, but the guy who owned the property was not friendly to
Sure.
people that wanted to come and check it out. In fact, he would often greet people with a shotgun.
Sure.
So that got torn down, I want to say in like 2015. So I wanted to get that off the map. But what I did was I left it on the map, but I said the actual building is torn down. Now, who knows what's still going on?
Sure.
If there was a ghost in the house, does the
Yeah.
ghost go away?
No, I don't think they just moved. They're like, I made that joke the other day. I was like, I think that when a house, because people have lived and died over and over and over again on every single corner of our planet, and so I don't think that that has anything to do with hauntings. But I say I don't think that once the plumbing is gone, the ghost is like, well, it's time to leave. I don't think they do.
Yeah. And that
um,
happens all the time with
yeah,
hospitals that are
right,
torn down, and there's another one called the Emmett House Restaurant, which had a fire in Waverly, Ohio, in Pike County, and a beautiful old brick house building that was a restaurant. And unfortunately, and they loved having the ghost. Like they had kind of a dinner and a ghost thing going on. I mean, they
sure,
really promoted it, but the building burned down, unfortunately. So I wanted to just update things like that. Like, hey, listen, the building's gone, so don't go there expecting to see it.
right.
And there's other hauntings that, maybe they were there already, but people have just gotten gotten me to see. Well, there's one that I found up in northwestern Ohio, which was a church at the time that my third edition came out. The church was desanctified, and now it's a brew pub. It's called Father John's Brewery, and it's supposed to be haunted. So at the time, it was an active church, so I didn't want to put it on the map. But
Right.
now that it's like a brew pub, it's like, hey, yeah, go have a beer and see if you can experience some ghostly apparition.
Well, and because that's the point of the map is that you mentioned this to me, you wanted to make it places that people could get to.
A lot. I try to make the locations kind of user friendly. Like you can go there and see for yourself. You can decide, hey, I want to go there. Yeah, it's spooky or whatever. Or you could at least drive by and see it. So I obviously don't condone trespassing. I have to say that for the record. But most of the places you can at least either drive by or you can make an appointment. You can, go and buy. Some of them offer tours, for sale.
Sure. Right. Things like that. Well, I'll say for the record, Pat O does condone trespassing. He's that kind of guy. So,
Hey,
Don't bring me into this. It's not.
I did say I did. I said you did. So it's on
But
you. These people get
if you are in the state of Illinois and you do find yourself being nabbed for trespassing, use jacobsonlegalservices.com. That's jacobsonlegalservices.com.
Absolutely.
Valid in Illinois only. He does not have a license to practice law anywhere else. So
in Ohio, okay.
if you're in Ohio, you're fucked. Sorry.
Well, anyway,
I got a question for the guest.
go ahead.
So I guess I want to go way, way, way back and talk about the original seed that got planted in you with maps, because that's I get it. We all use maps. It's not like maps are foreign to some of us. And it's not that most of us will go our lives without using one. Like we're all familiar with maps,
Mm-hmm.
but something clicked with you with them. And is it, from hearing you talk about it, it feels like you thought, and this is something that you tell me whether or not this is true, but like, it's something that like you were kind of enamored by, and then you realized that people made them, and you decided, I'm going to be one of those people.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. It's
know?
quite, I haven't really analyzed it too much. I feel like I should lay down on a couch, but, my parents had these great atlases from, post World War II, and they were these beautiful. I'm a visual person, so and a spatial person. So I think for me, I had to see it. I had to understand the surroundings. But I just remember, pulling out these huge atlases. My parents subscribed to National Geographic, so when the map would come every couple times a year in edition, I'd pull it out, and it was just colorful, and I'm easily entertained. So I think just bright and vivid colors probably attracted me, like shiny, right? And so I just, as a youth, I was definitely, in a, kind of a bookworm and kind of academic to begin with, kind of a nerdnik. But, I'm looking up, if I read about a place or something, I had to see where it was on a map.
Well, there's a certain power in like naming and you're almost like creating an alternate reality when you make these things.
The cartographer makes your reality, right? They can choose what's on the map and what's not.
Right. So it's like you kind of you understand the power of a map, and then comes the grab for the authority, because now you want to be the person that makes it. I listen to Mark Maron and Coast to Coast, by the way. I am not a one-trick pony. I listen to multiple podcasts. So if it sounds, and I've also been in therapy for most of my life. So whenever I go off on one of these things, like just it comes from a place of love. I'm not trying to pick you apart. I just think it's super interesting because, like, maps are something we all use, but we don't all know cartographers. Right. It's a very unique but very necessary function. And I mean, I know people that were. You saying that you work for the utilities company now, it reminds me of a friend of mine who was an archaeologist, and she worked for AT&T. And, she went to school to be an archaeologist. She went and did like all these research assignments in fucking Peru and South America. And then what does she do? She comes back and she gets a job for the telephone company, making sure that where they're putting their new cell phone towers doesn't interrupt burial mounds or something in the Midwest, because the Midwest is full of these fucking things.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how like those very creative, very like out there professions find very mundane homes, working, just for kind of like keeping our society going,
I didn't realize you could be a cartographer well into my like junior year in college. I started out as an accounting major because my dad said you should go into business, whatever. And then, a year into it, I'm like, this is bogus. I cannot do this.
Yeah.
So I switched, and I actually switched to education, social studies education. And when you're a social studies education major, like the only thing you're going to do is probably become a high school social studies teacher, history, geography, government, whatever. And, so that was fine. That got me through college, but that still wasn't really, I didn't think that's what I wanted to do. So my senior year in college, I went to Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. I was taking a lot of geography classes as part of my requirements for social studies. And all these geography classes obviously have a lot of maps. And, I was already a map guy. Like my roommates in college called me Mr. Maps because I had maps on the wall, if like in the dorm room. And I also had Jim McMahon, but I also had maps. And then so I graduated and I went right into grad school for geography at the University of Cincinnati. And there you take cartography classes. You learn how to make a map. We actually learned one semester of how to make a hand-drawn map with like ink pens and the right kind of paper, which is obviously now not how they make maps. But they wanted us to know kind of the beginnings of that. And then we went into other things. And it wasn't just map making. It was other things that have to do with geography, spatial analysis. GIS is a big thing today, geographic information systems. But we were doing, different things in geography. And So I'm like, well, I don't know if I'll be a cartographer, but I love geography and I love maps, and that's a tool of geography as well as a tool for many other subjects. But I was lucky. I answered an ad in the paper in 1997 after I'd finished grad school. It was, the old-fashioned classified ad. It was a little local map company this guy had started, and he was doing maps for chambers of commerce where they would do street maps for different cities. And answered the ad, and I went in, and he obviously knew I loved maps, but he was a PC guy, like using DOS and all this stuff. I had used Mac because that was what people in education had always used. And he's like, well, you don't know DOS, so I don't think this is going to work out. And I'm like, no, I got friends. So I went, and like for 2 weeks, I just crammed all this stuff about PCs and DOS, and I went back and I showed him. He's like, okay, well, looks like, and I was so happy because that got me my start. And he had been doing maps on and off for many years, and he'd been in the Air Force and other things. And so he really showed me. His name is Judd Ingalls, and he does maps for Cincinnati. He did maps all over, but he did a lot of atlases for Cincinnati and Dayton. And just really showed me a lot of how you can make maps, on computers. So I really got my practical training with him for about 10 or 15 years. And then it was kind of time to move on. And that's when I found the job at the utility company. But, that was that was great experience. I'm very lucky. I feel, that I was able to take my passion and, find a job doing it.
Yeah. Well, and then now, I mean, and now you've taken it and you've combined it with a different passion. And
I've melded the two for sure.
Right. And I think that's really neat. I think that for people, like myself that like to go out and investigate and do these things, I think the map is really fun because it feels very safari-esque. Right. I mean, you think of like Indiana Jones, you got your map, you're going to go hunt some Bigfoot or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In fact, Jessie from
Hellbent Holler. Yeah,
Hellbent Holler. I met her at CryptidCon, and her and Joe, she and Joe got a map, and she just messaged me the other day. She's like, we're going to, wherever, and we've got your map. And I'm like, I am humbled. I am just like, what?
Yeah.
The map, you can only put so much on there. So I've got the Ohio map, and we should kind of tell people who might not be familiar. After I did the Ohio map, and It's a very detailed map. Like I said, it's huge. It's 38 inches wide by 50 inches high, a two-sided full-color map. After I did the Ohio map, people were asking me, do you have other states? Do you have, West Virginia or Pennsylvania, whatever. And I'm like, well, no, but I really want to do, other states. And I hummed and I hawed, and I finally, and I thought of Illinois too, Pat, because I grew up there, but I just, nothing was really, I need passion, I need interest, and nothing was really grabbing me. Mm-hmm. And so finally about, 5 years later, 2012, I said, you know what, I'm just going to map the entire country. And I'm going to obviously just have to hit the highlights. It can't be everything that's out there because it just won't fit on the map. But I'm going to hit the highlights. I'm going to hit the stuff that interests me. I made the map for myself. I know I put Indian mounds on there because I love Indian mounds. Ancient American earthworks, Serpent Mound, Cahokia, all these places. And I put military and government sites. So I made a national map. It took 10 years for me to research partly because I procrastinate, but rather just living life and raising kids and whatever. So 2019 hits, my kids are off in college, the pandemic hits, and I sit down, and I've been working on the map at that point for like 7 years. I'm like, okay, I got to get this done. My job had sent me to work from home. Nothing is going on else outside of my life because of the pandemic. And I was able to take about a year and just really just drive it home and get the map done. And so the map came out last summer, July 2020 or 2021. And if it wasn't for the pandemic, I'd probably still be working on it right now. So
that's honest.
The national map is called Map in Black. And It pinpoints haunted places, cryptids, UFO sightings, ancient American earthworks. I put the spot where DB Cooper probably landed because I just love that stuff. I mean, I put stuff on the map that I like.
Yeah.
And where can people find these?
If you go to Half Price Books, they are selling it for me. They've got about 100 locations around the country. I would love for you to go to your local bookstore, independent bookstore. They probably don't have it, but tell them, I want you to, get this map and carry it. I'll send them 10 copies wholesale and have them sell it. I want them to be able to work with me on this. They can also go to my website, mapinblack.com, and order it. But again, I would love for your local bookstore to have this available.
Sure. Well, go check your local bookstore. See if it's there. Whether it is or it is not, buy books from them, please, because they need the help.
They do.
I love Half Price Books. I was just talking to my wife about this because the paint and sip that we did for our anniversary was right next to a Half Price Books, and I miss being younger and living in shitty apartments where I had no room because I didn't collect anything that I didn't absolutely need to. So like I would have a Jimmy John's box, and as I read books, I would throw my books into the Jimmy John's box, and then when the box got full, I would just go to Half Price Books, and then here's a bunch of. Now I keep everything. I'm a hoarder. I have a book. I can have a floor to ceiling bookshelf in my man cave in the back of the house. But when I was younger, I didn't have this space for that, and I knew that I'd be moving in a year, and I'd have to carry all this shit with me. And Half Price Books was like my favorite place in the world to go. Just walking into that place and the smell of it, and I could be in there for hours and find Stephen King books I hadn't read yet, or go get Old Man in the Sea. Be like, screw it, it's $2.99. I've never read this before. Why not grab it?
Oh, it's great for 40 and for old 40 and books that like are really expensive on eBay or you can't find. It's perfect.
I got so much stuff when I was researching Hidden Ohio because you go in and they have a local section. So here they have, Haunted Ohio and, Cincinnati Haunted Ghosts. And it's perfect. So some of your listeners might not know it because they're not in every state, but it's a used bookstore, but they have some new books, but you can go and sell your old books there as well. So it's a great place to find a lot of great old stuff. So they have, like I said, over 100 locations, I think in like 20 states.
I know our buddy from Aaron Dees from Hey Strangeness, he talks about going all the time and he's in Texas. So, I mean, Texas
is their headquarters. They have.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, they have the most locations in Texas.
Oh, well,
I know where 3 of them are. Just
Chicago has a bunch. Yep.
Yeah. Just based on like my neighborhood and like the circles that I travel in. So
I was so lucky. I reached out to them when I had the Hidden Ohio map. I reached out to the Ohio locations, and they were so nice. And I mean, if they didn't get the map, I don't know if I would have been able to continue to print new editions because they would buy so many for me, in bulk. And I would give them a huge discount because they were buying so many. And there are like 15 stores in Ohio, which is great. Cincinnati, Dayton, Columbus, Cleveland all have multiple locations. So that really helped fan out the Hidden Ohio map across the state. Mm-hmm. So when I was getting ready to print my national map, Map in Black, I reached out and to the Ohio people, and they're like, "Oh, you need to go to talk to our national guy." And so I did. I was really like nervous, like, oh, this guy doesn't know who I am, and how am I going to explain this map to him? And, it's a map that has haunted places and cryptids, and you just don't know like how people are going to react to that. But but he was cool, and I sent him a copy. He's in Seattle, but he buys like nationally for Half Price Books, and so he got the map and. Like he would talk to the Ohio people and they're like, yeah, this sells really well. So he ordered a bunch and that was able to help me kind of launch the national version, Map in Black. And so they got like 2,000 copies that they took for their stores, and they have them, at least in Cincinnati, they have them right up at the checkout counter, which is amazing. I mean, because that's like an impulse buy, right? You're up there like, oh, what's this? So,
yeah, I think I had pre-ordered the Map in Black when it was coming out. I couldn't wait to get it.
I kept telling people like it's going to be out soon. And then there was a printing issue. And let me just apologize to anyone that did pre-order. So it's called Map in Black because I wanted the base map, the states of the US to be black. And then everything else, the symbols and the text on
Okay.
top of that would be white and different colors. And, I've got a ghostly handprint for the haunted places. Well, when I got the proof from the printer in April, the black requires so much ink because black is a combination of every other color when you're printing, CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow. And so they have to run through the printing press 3 times. It soaked up so much ink that the paper rippled. So then when they ran it through for like another color, they're trying to get, it's called registration. It's not matching up. So everything's blurry and you couldn't read anything. I'm like, okay, this is a disaster. People are going to kill me. I'm not going to be able to get the map out. I had to basically reconsider the style. I'm talking to my friend Chuck, who's a graphic design major. He teaches at Sinclair Community College in Dayton. And, he's given me, ideas. Well, okay, try this and try that. So I kind of did a reverse and I made the background gray and I made the water, like around the US, the Pacific and the Atlantic, I made that black because there's not much going on out there. And because I already had the website Map in Black, so I couldn't like change. I had to
Oh,
have something black
sure.
on the map. So that's why you look at it now and you're wondering, well,
It's not
what's
all
that
black.
mean?
I,
What's that mean,
I
Map
guess
in
I
Black?
didn't question it. I just assumed, oh, it's a play on Men in Black. It makes sense.
Well,
It's a map.
well, it was. It totally was. Men in Black. Yes.
So it made sense to me. I was like, oh, okay.
It was a play on that, but I also thought, well, if I'm going to say that, I should have some black in
Sure.
the map. And at first I wanted the whole like base map to be black. It doesn't work when you print a huge map
Yeah.
like this.
And it's big. I mean, I'm sure in the promo of the show, I'm probably going to show the picture of me and Anne with the map, because it's a large map. I mean, it's not just a little 8x10.
Yeah, it's about as big as they come, 38 by 50.
Yeah.
And you know what? I actually had to decrease the coverage area because I wanted the entire Bermuda Triangle like on one sheet, but the text, like everything was too small. The scale was not right. So I had to shrink the coverage and I lost part of the Bermuda Triangle, unfortunately. I mean, everyone knows where it is. And really, it's out in the middle of the ocean. So you're not really mapping anything except the points that the triangle makes of Bermuda, Puerto Rico, and Miami. So I've got Puerto Rico and Miami as 2 of the points, and then it kind of just it trails off the map. So.
If you ever do like a big re-release of it, or you do maybe your next edition, you should do like a limited time deal where you get the map and you get like a little like really like a cool magnifying glass.
I like thought about including one because you almost need one even for this edition. The text is pretty small. And I've got really thick glasses. Anyone that's met me knows. I mean, I've had them since I was 2 years old. But even I like kind of have to squint sometimes to see some of the text.
But I mean, I think it would be a cool bundle. Like I said, a little adventurers kit, I think would be neat.
I see that. Yes. Yeah.
I think that would be cool. So, and we kind of talked about, I don't know how much you want to touch on it, but like we talked about other maps that people are doing. What do you think about the other, you don't have to mention names or if you don't want to, but there are other people that do kind of make these maps. And, nowadays, we have Google, and I mentioned that when we map these things, we just use Google Maps and it's real easy, compared to, yourself, you've done a physical blood, sweat, and tears map, and now there's other people with their apps and their things.
Right.
What do you think about them, doing that?
I'm all for it. I love it. I just want to be, I wanted to provide my special interest. And I think that's what everyone does. When people are into this stuff, you see the artists that can draw and they draw the cryptids.
Sure.
I just wanted to take my passion that I already have and add it to the community. So I know there's other people doing maps and I'm all for it. I love it. I feel no animosity or jealousy. There is, My buddy out in the Pacific Northwest, he is doing great scientific, accurate maps. It's Pacific Northwest Maps. I can't think of the exact name, but it's like PNW. He's on Instagram. He's talked to Micah Hanks and different folks. So he's creating very accurate maps, and he's overlaying different layers of the vegetation and the elevation to show where Bigfoot is and the habitat that Bigfoot has. And I think that's great, and I think that's needed. If I had the technology for that, I would probably want to do that too. It's very specialized, and he has that technological bug that he can do that with, and I think that's needed.
Yeah,
that's great. I fully support it.
Right. And we've talked about just how much just the research alone goes into doing something like this.
So much.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And when you're a one-person crew, it's helpful when you got other people that are also doing it. So that's nice.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. So, okay, well, why don't we share some things off of the maps that you can find? Do you have anything in particular that, whenever you're showing somebody the map for the first time, you're like, oh, look at this though. Did you hear about this thing? Or any favorites?
Yeah, with the Ohio map, I've done presentations. I've gone around to libraries, and I was at the Circleville Pumpkin Festival one year, and so I get those questions a lot. It depends on the subject, whether it's a cryptid or a UFO or a haunted spot. And I'll stick to Ohio for now. But for Ohio, my favorite haunt is the Moonville Tunnel. And for several reasons. I mean, there's great haunts all over Ohio. There's Mansfield Reformatory that everyone loves, and I spent the night there, which is where they filmed Shawshank Redemption. Even though it was supposed to be in Maine, they filmed it in Ohio because they had this recently emptied prison that they were about to destroy, and luckily, in part because they filmed Shawshank Redemption and some in Air Force One and some rap videos, they were able to keep that preserved. So that's a great spot. But Moonville Tunnel, I'm a nature person. I love the woods. So you go down to southeastern Ohio, and you're going to be in the forest. You're going to be in Wayne National Forest or Shawnee State Park. They call it the Little Smokies. So Moonville Tunnel is in southeastern Ohio, just outside of Athens in Vinton County. And it's an old railroad tunnel, brick tunnel that they built just like around the turn of the century, the late 1800s. And they wrote the word Moonville. I mean, that's just a cool name to begin with. And it's on the old USGS topographic maps. It says Moonville, so it was a railroad stop. And they had to put the tunnel through the hills of southeastern Ohio. And then the train tracks ended up becoming abandoned, and they've now taken the tracks out. But you can still walk into what is now a state forest, Zaleski State Forest, and find this tunnel in the middle of the woods. It just like pops out into the open as you're turning around this path in the woods. So it's very bizarre just to see this thing kind of pop up in the woods. If you bring little kids, just know you're going to have some graffiti, some interesting graffiti.
Sure. But it's pretty easy. Considering it's in the middle of the woods, it's pretty easy to get to.
It is. You can you can. And so on my map, I have directions, a description of the haunting. There were several hauntings there. The main one is the Lantern Man, who was on the back of the train, apparently fell off and got decapitated. And so the story is that he is carrying a lantern and still looking for his head. Mm-hmm. So if you're there at night, which I've been there at dark, but I usually go to these places in the middle of the day just because of my schedule.
Yeah.
And they're not as scary, but
sure.
If you go, at night, you're supposed to see the light kind of show up in the distance, and then as you get closer, it'll disappear. But that's the Lantern Man.
Yeah, and they do a like a Halloween festival up there every year.
Wow.
Yeah, and
I did not know that.
Yeah, they do. They do it. It goes on until like midnight, And then after that point, they do a paranormal investigation that you could sign up for with a team or whatever. So that's very neat and touristy if you're more into the touristy thing. If not, I mean, it's available all the time for you to just go
All the
visit.
time. Yeah.
So
It's in the state forest, and,
yeah.
you might be the only one there. So
And isn't
check it
there
out.
still a little right around that area? I mean, within walking distance, I believe, if you go through the woods a little bit more, there's like a little abandoned town.
You can see there's a cemetery as well, Moonville Cemetery,
Okay.
that you can find. If you look closely in the woods, it's hard because the trees have grown up around it, but there are some building foundations that they're hard to see, but they're there. There was a saloon right on the railroad tracks, which was also a hotel and a bar and probably everything. It was
Brothel.
multi-use.
Yeah. Most likely a brothel.
Uh-huh. And I mean, there was a town there, and they called it Moonville, and it popped up because of the tracks and because there was a train stop, and it is literally a ghost town. I mean, it's gone. You're not going to. It's hard to see. But if you're looking and you're almost going to say, are those rocks or is that the foundation of the building? And they used the rocks as the foundation. So
yeah,
it's oftentimes hard to tell.
Well, and that's what I tell people. If you're going to go, if you're going to make the trip, just make sure you also look around for that too, because you're already there. You might as well. So
when you're there, I was there in the middle of the day, and I took my little kids. I've been there multiple times. For a while, I was going every year and just bringing different friends. Like, you got to come check this out. And when you're there, it's like you're going back in time, and you walk through the tunnel and you keep going down the path, which is now a rails to trails path. But at the time when I was there, you had to go down the side of the valley into the creek and cross it, and hopefully it wasn't too deep. Now they've built bridges for the rail to trail, but so it was really an adventure to go there back in the mid 2000s, and it's just when you go past the bridge, there are these old telephone poles. I mean, they look like they're out of I don't know, like 50 years ago or longer, and you just feel like you're going back in time, and it's there's a reason these places are haunted. I mean, the hairs in the back of your neck stand up, and you get a weird sensation.
Yeah, well, I think I definitely recommend visiting Moonville Tunnel. I haven't been there yet.
Oh boy! All right, road trip.
Yeah, I've not been there yet. It's definitely on the list. So we will make it out there. It just keeps being one of those things that it's like, well, we need to go see this thing, and then we just keep not going. That was something that we had talked about also with this map. As I had said that I got my footing in this because me and my friends used to do drugs and go ghost hunting, quote unquote. And that's how this started. And I would have loved to have had the map. Then I didn't know the map was available then, and apparently it was. So.
Oh, I'm sorry that you weren't able to.
I know.
Use the drugs, have the map.
Right. That would have been easier. I mean, we probably would have had less, stories to tell about getting lost and all that. But
that's right. Yes.
That was part of the adventure. But sometimes we'd just be like, well, are we gonna, where are we gonna go tonight? Well, so I got into the Weird Ohio book because for a long time we were using it to pick locations to go to these places while we did our drugs. And
it's a great companion. So the map can't tell the story very well. On the back of the Ohio map, I do have like one line to give you a very succinct summary of why it's haunted, and then exact directions. On the national map, the map in black, there's not room because I have over 1,000 haunted spots, dozens of cryptids. So, today everyone has a smartphone. Back when I did the Hidden Ohio map in 2007, I think I had a BlackBerry, but you weren't looking things up on the phones at that point. That's why I wanted to make sure I had the information on the map. But when I did the map in black, I'm like, how do I need to have the description on the map? I mean, people are going to look this stuff up anyways.
Sure.
Even if I have a one-line description, they're going to want to know more.
Well, it gives you a really good out to promote other people within the community to be like, oh, if you want to know more, you can check. It gives people a reason to go searching for the media and things, which is awesome.
Yes,
that's great.
It's a good companion for find your favorite haunted book for your region. for your state, for your city, whatever it is.
Yeah, definitely.
Get the cryptid books by your favorite cryptid author, whoever that might be,
Sure.
and then go out and see where I've pinpointed the cryptids. Again, you're probably saying, well, why don't you have the cryptid that was seen, in 2008 at this spot? Well, I can't fit them all. I try to do representative sampling. Obviously, Bigfoot is probably the most common one on the map.
Sure. It's big in Ohio. I mean, it's
big in Ohio. It's big
everywhere.
I think it's in every state. I mean,
it is. Yeah.
I think it is. I mean, I don't know if it's not in Hawaii. I do not have it in Hawaii.
Oh,
but it's in Alaska.
So it's okay. So going on to cryptids, what's your favorite cryptid or cryptids on the map?
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to brown nose, but it has to be Mothman because that's what started the Ohio map. I mean, I saw the movie. We went there to check it out ourselves, and that was the inspiration for me to start making the map. So I have to give credit where credit is due. Mothman, you got me to map the strange and paranormal around Ohio and around the country.
Well, I mean, and I love that because, and you do include some of the things along the southern border, not just in Ohio, but like the Mothman sightings over in West Virginia and things like that.
Right across the border, yeah.
Right, and I think that I love it because when everybody thinks of Mothman, they think of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and it's like, well, but Ohio actually had a lot more people that lived in Ohio died in the bridge collapse than they did in West Virginia.
It was, yeah.
And so Mothman is very much an Ohio legend, and that's
Gallipolis and. Southern Ohio had plenty of sightings.
Yeah, plenty of sightings, right there along the river. And so people, I mean, that's where the name came from, an Ohio journalist. And so, that
right.
people tend to kind of forget that. And so I think
from Athens, Ohio, the
exactly
Athens Messenger, Mary, I forget her last name, but she was a journalist in Ohio, and she dubbed the term.
Yeah, and people, just like I said, that it's like there's a erasure of Mothman lore here. So I like that it's represented on the map. What about some of your favorite aliens? What about those guys on the map?
Oh, there's every time I get into like a really good UFO story, I'm just captivated. And I put plenty on the map. There's several dozen across the country. Obviously, I've got Roswell. I've got the Kenny Arnold sighting that gave us the term flying saucer. The Betty and Barney Hill in New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite is, I'm going to go back to Ohio just because that's really where I've kind of studied the details of these the most. Is a police chase in northeastern Ohio back in 1966. Two police officers in Portage County, last name Neff, N-E-F-F, and Spower, were coming out of, I think, a little restaurant or something at like 5:30 in the morning when they saw this light that they could not identify. So they got in their cruiser and they started to chase it. And for 20 some miles, more than that, across the rolling hills of northeastern Ohio, east of Akron, up by Youngstown, but out in the country, they chased this UFO. It always stayed in front of them. It kind of flew down the road, and other police officers joined in from other jurisdictions, and it went into Pennsylvania, right there by the border. They continued into Pennsylvania, even though they were out of their jurisdiction. Finally, they were getting low on gas, and they're like, listen, we need to stop. So they turned around and went back, made the report. Again, dozens of other officers from different departments collaborated their story. And this was in, like I said, I think 1966. The government came out, the U.S. Air Force came out, maybe from Wright Pat, I'm not sure where, but they came out to investigate and interviewed them, whatever else they did at the time. And their conclusion was that they chased Venus as it rose in the morning sky.
Yeah.
Now, this was so bright, it was making their eyes water. Now, I've seen Venus, and it's a bright object in the sky. compared to other things, but it is not making your eyes water, and
No.
you are not wanting to chase it.
Yeah,
So
right. It doesn't move. Right. It's stationary.
yeah, yeah,
So, I
and
mean, after the
it
first
was
mile, you'd be like, oh, it's not moving anymore.
yeah, and they're going down these country roads. They're not on the interstate.
Right.
So Steven Spielberg was born in Ohio,
Hmm.
and this took place there. So 10 years later, after this police chase, guess what he does? He takes that police chase and he puts it in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Now, in that movie, he transplants the location to Indiana, where, if you remember, the police officers are chasing all the UFOs as they go down and they're crashing
Yeah.
into the wood fence and stuff. He took that right out of that true life story because it was all over the news, all over the country.
Wow.
It was
I
in the
didn't know
paper.
that at all. That was a very fun fact.
Headline stories in the paper. I mean, I've never heard Spielberg say that, but you have to think that he saw that and
Sure.
he recreated that exact police chase.
Wow. That's
So,
really cool.
and that was only 10 years later, right? 1966 is when these officers chased it. And then 10 years later, he's filming Close Encounters. Probably 1976 is when he was filming it. And then it came out in 1977. And so he just moved the location for whatever reason, with Terry Garr and Richard Dreyfuss in
Sure.
Indiana.
No, that's really cool. I didn't. Well, I think that's even cooler because that's such a nobody talks about that police chase encounter a lot, which I think is
Yeah, and there's multiple UFOs in that one. He added a bunch, and
I just mean right, the actual event itself. I feel like nobody talks about that a lot.
They
and I
don't. And
it's very disheartening.
One of the guys quit the police force, and I don't remember which one, Neff or Spa, but one of them quit the police force. He was ridiculed. Can you imagine? Like other police officers, like, "Hey, dude, you see any UFOs today?"
Oh yeah,
and
especially for the
quit.
time. I mean, in
Right.
the 60s, it
But
wasn't.
He never, like, he always said, this is what he saw.
Yeah.
A reporter tracked him down years later. He was kind of destitute. He said he wished he had never seen it. He said it ruined his life.
Wow.
In fact, he saw one again years later, he claimed.
He probably did, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
if I'm honest, a lot of these people that experience these
Mm-hmm.
events of high strangeness don't just experience it once. They do it over and over again.
And I know you're researching Woody Darren.
Oh yeah, the Entered Cold story, yeah.
Yep, and the multiple encounters. So this guy said he saw one again. I don't know what the interaction was or how much detail there was, but he was divorced. He had was living in a trailer. He had opened a bar or something, and that just.
He sounds like he's doing okay for himself. I mean, he's got a double wide, and he's a business owner. Don't shit on the man just yet.
Yeah, I mean, hey, to some of us, that's a dream come true. But no, he did. He said he wished he'd never seen it. I mean, this guy never tried to make money off of it. These are the stories that fascinate me when, they're not trying to, just write a book or whatever. Sure. And if you are, that's fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But this guy was just, and it's like the Mothman witnesses. I went to a Mothman festival and I talked to one of the original witnesses. I think it was Linda Scarberry.
Wow, yeah.
You look someone in the eye and if they are telling the truth or not. Or she told me, she's like, I don't know what it was, but I seen it, and it was something I can't explain. And wow, I mean, you just get chills. It's just...
Yeah, Linda was always actually, during my Paranormal Expo presentation on the Mothman, I included her quote of her saying pretty much exactly what the guy said. I wish we had never seen it. I wish somebody else had seen it.
Oh,
and, she maintained, and they went on to, one thing about the Scarberry story itself is that, people don't realize that they ended up having poltergeist-like activity at the home. Linda continued to see the Mothman throughout the years of her life, inside the home and outside the home. And I mean, it just carried on forever. And, people don't really see that. They just kind of go, you saw something ridiculous. No, that didn't happen. But you're right. When you talk to these people and you sit down and really listen to the story, I tell everybody because one of the most effective stories that we've ever had on the show was Roy Stubblefield sharing his dogman encounter. Because you can't. Roy's not an actor. He's not a writer. He's not any type of creative. He's just a working guy, regular guy that happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, and you can just hear it in his voice when he tells it. And that's probably, if you're not going to be able to talk to somebody who's had a really strange encounter like that, that is probably the next best thing that you're going to get to experiencing what it's like to hear them tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is very effective. But no, I mean, that's amazing. I had no idea that you had actually spoken with Linda. That would have been, whew.
I think that's, it was one of the older ladies, and if I'm pretty sure that was the name that sticks in my mind.
Linda
that was
Farmer,
probably
yeah.
10 years ago.
It probably was. She was very vocal about the encounter. So
I had a booth, with selling my map, and she was out there signing autographs or whatever. I'm not sure, but I just wanted to go up and meet her, and to see somebody face to face and have them talk to you. You just you get your own spidey senses on
sure.
on kind of the BS meter.
Sure. Well, speaking of encounters, have you ever experienced anything strange?
I am probably not the best person, to be able to share anything strange. I mean, when I was at Moonville, I was with some friends. They have a little radio show out of Bowling Green, and they were on the way to the Mothman Festival, and I wanted to show them Moonville. And we were there just at dark, and she was taking pictures with an old-fashioned camera, right, with film, and didn't think anything of it. But weeks later, she got it developed, and there was a white spot behind us. And I can't explain that. I don't know what that was. I didn't see it at the time. I wasn't looking in that direction, but that's unexplained. I'm not going to say it was anything because I don't know. So I found that interesting.
Sure.
I spent the night at Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Louisville with the Ghosts of Ohio, and we had some just people who were fans of the group could go, and I was standing next to a lady, and she said she smelled a cigar, which apparently is something that people experience. I don't know why, but I couldn't smell anything.
Sure.
And I wanted to, but I'm like, oh wow, and so I missed out on that for whatever reason. But she was, and I've been on different investigations with the Ghosts of Ohio paranormal group that would do private residential places as well as going to these fun places that are open for tours. And there's things that have been picked up by the different instruments that are unexplained, but nothing outright that I would say that I could point to and say, oh yeah, I saw that ghost. Or I encountered this cryptid. As much as I've tried, I mean, I've been out there and looking around and come at me, give me. I don't scream that. I'm not like Zach or whatever, but I'm very subdued and humble. But I'm just like, no. I mean, I'd love I've put myself in the situation to have those experiences, and so far nothing outright has come to the forefront.
Does that ever well, okay, I guess we'll establish this. Is it safe to say that you believe in these things?
No, it's not safe.
Okay.
The more I've done this mapping stuff, and the more I've gone out and looked at places, the more I've talked to people. And hey, if you're telling me that something happened to you, I believe you. I'm not there to try to talk you out of it.
Sure.
But I'm on the skeptical side, and I want here. I mean, classic phrase, right? I want to believe. Like I'm a hopeful skeptic. Like, yeah, I'm sure there's something out there. Well, listen, there's stuff out there that is happening that we can't explain. That there's no doubt. I'm putting this stuff on the map because enough people. I'm not putting one thing on the map because one person said this happened to me here. I'm putting things on the map where enough people have said, I've experienced something here. And so these points are places that I think we've come to agree as a whole that something is going on here.
Okay.
Or something happened here at one point in time. Maybe it's not happening now, but like Mothman and Point Pleasant,
Sure.
the 1966 to 67 span. And I know you talk about Mothman in other spots, and it's not a one-time thing. And I agree. But with the hauntings, some of them maybe they're one-time situations, but a lot of them are residual, where it seems like the same thing happens over and over.
Sure. And I 100% respect the fact that you are a skeptic, because a lot of people, Tobias Whalen said it best about when we had Adam on the show last week, that he liked how he was open-minded, but not so open-minded that his brains fell out. And and I've heard that before, and I think that that's a really good way to put it. Because there's some things that you see that you're like, yeah, no, that didn't. Not to say
there's
that,
something going on, and I know,
yeah,
I know, when you were brave enough to share at Haunted Marietta that,
sure.
You're not sure about ghosts, or what we call ghosts, and I think it's terminology. There's something going on, and some people want to call it a ghost, or some people want to call it an alien, or Bigfoot. Something is going on. We have limited terms for how we can describe something based on our limited 5 senses.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go back and think about when the Europeans first came to this country, they had no terms for some of the wildlife they saw, so they called it, a wood rat or something like that. They combined words from their background in Europe, and they didn't know how to describe things. So what we're seeing is beyond our understanding, beyond our comprehension. I wish I knew. If I did, we'd all have the answers, right? If any of us knew,
sure,
we wouldn't be out there looking. So something's going on. We have to keep looking. We have to keep trying different things. I love that all these people are out there, whether it's with your EVP or whatever. I'm not a big orb guy, so let's take it easy on the orbs. But get out there. I think our own body is enough of an instrument to tell if something is off, or something is not right.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
I think it just goes back to our, we always go back to the caveman, like the evolutionary instincts that we developed and were able to use to survive. Like we see a shape in the woods that looks like it might be moving, like we become alert.
Right.
Something tells us that we need to be careful. So, that's what we're seeing out there with Bigfoot or Mothman. It's different for everybody, but it's, I think, just a culmination of how we've come to the point where we are today in our evolution.
You had said something to me that, because when we talked at CryptidCon, I had mentioned, this mapping thing, it's wonderful. It's a great idea. I love it because, we have all of this stuff happening in this one area here, and then nothing right here, and then it picks back up again. I've mentioned that a lot to people when I talk about looking into concentrated areas of high strangeness, that you have, all the way down the East Coast and, through the Midwest and whatnot. You have all this weird stuff, and then you kind of get to the center of the country, and it's kind of blank, and then you get back down to the West Coast, and there's more. And you had a very simple explanation for that, and you just said, well, there's less people. And I was like,
well, you have to have people there to make an observation. And definitely when you get into the Great Plains, you don't get much going on out there.
Right.
Not that there isn't anything going on, but we just need more eyes out there to see things.
So as an investigator, I saw that and I went, well, maybe he just ruined my theory, but maybe he didn't. Maybe what I need to do instead is to start hitting harder on those states and investigating them more thoroughly, because maybe nobody has yet.
Nobody has. These are the last frontiers.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not just Alaska. It's and it's there's the Mexican desert. There's things going on.
Sure.
I've got a little bit of Mexico on the map, just because when you draw a rectangle around the U.S., you get parts of Mexico and you get parts of Canada. And I love Canada. I've been all over Canada. So I've got insets for the Maritimes, Nova Scotia, and those provinces, and I've got little insets for the Caribbean islands, just because. If you go there, hey, there's haunted stuff going on there. I'm sure. I'm sure, like I'm sure Havana, Cuba. I mean, that's a historic city. I'm sure there's all kinds of cool ghost stuff. I couldn't find much in the literature, just because it's probably in Spanish, and we're not allowed to go to Cuba, or at least we weren't up until recently. But there are plenty of frontiers out there. Pick your spot that you enjoy, or places that you like, whether it's your own backyard or it's southeastern Ohio, like me, going to Moonville. Get a territory and make it your own, and learn everything you can about it. I wanted to tell you, Asher, I was just as I'm updating Hidden Ohio, I was just tweaking some of the things on the map, and I'm actually adding power plants, just a little symbol on the Hidden Ohio map, just because I want to have as many layers and as many things on there, so you can see, am I seeing this because that's there? What's the correlation?
Yeah.
And there are 2 power plants just north of Point Pleasant. They're on the Ohio side. They're 2 of the most polluting coal plants in the country. And now one of them wasn't there when Mothman was first sighted, but the other one was, and it's got the highest chimney of any coal plant in the country. And they've had to retrofit it to scrub out all of the toxins. And they did that in like 2010. But then they built this other plant in 1974, and it had such a noxious cloud that hung over the coal plant that they had the town of Cheshire on the Ohio River in Ohio abandoned. The coal company paid like $20 million to move like 90% of the residents out of this town. And so I'm just thinking, there's always that story like, oh, well, Mothman appeared because, the bridge was going to collapse and he was a harbinger of doom. Okay, yeah. Probably not, but
sure.
That's an interesting correlation. They put that in the movie, so everyone likes to think of that. But here we are with this noxious coal plant, right? Probably 5 miles up the river, producing these noxious fumes. You had the old TNT plant where it was first seen, that had probably contaminated the soil.
It still does, yeah.
And so you need to become an expert of the local area in every way possible. The ecology, what's going on, what kind of ecological region is it, and so if you're into this stuff and you have some favorites, just really delve into that local scene, not just the story of the cryptid or the ghost or whatever, but the history, the migrants, the immigrants that came there, and what did they bring with them, what kind of baggage and folklore. And the Native Americans, of course, are just a
gold mine of information.
Amazing. Exactly.
Yeah, no, you're right. Actually, what's really funny is that we were out filming and over there in Point Pleasant for the documentary, and we were actually out by that power plant because we were talking about it. We were like, well, what is that? Let's go over there. And we were out filming by it. While we were over there, huge fucking bird is flying in and out of the plume coming out of it. And I'm like,
whoa,
kind of joking, and I'm like, that could be Mothman. And everybody's like, I mean, it could be. And then we were all kind of talking about it. We're like, well, I mean, it is pretty big. What is that? Well, they got turkey vultures. It was probably that, honestly.
Yeah, right.
But it's a part of the B-roll for the documentary. So
it flies into the cloud as a sandhill crane. It comes out as Mothman.
Mothman.
Yeah.
That's the theory.
Gets transformed by this noxious gas,
right?
Or something. Yeah.
Exactly.
Superhero powers or whatever.
Yeah, but no, you're right. I mean, and that's why I have Anne, which you met Anne at CryptidCon as well.
Yep.
And I'm the person that specializes in the creature, in the people that see these things and experience these things, and she specializes in the history of the areas that it's happening in, because you very much need to do that. But if you live in one of these, we talk joked about Ohio being a flyover state. It's not. But if you do live in somewhere that's considered that, or maybe you think that weird things don't happen in your area a lot, start digging into it. People that want to get into this stuff, whether you just want to do it as a hobby or whether maybe you want to have a podcast one day, look in your own backyard. We can't express that enough, because you'd be surprised once you start talking. And that's what I found looking at these states that kind of on the map in black that really don't seem to have a lot going on. When you start talking to people that live there and work there and, every day, then you start finding, well, okay, there is more out there than we know, and it's very interesting. So,
and if I could probably pick any little town, if I did enough research, I could probably find some story and plop it on the map. But I spent 10 years and I'm
That's
like,
okay.
Enough is enough. I need to, I feel like I had enough on the map to get it out there. And hey, if you have a story that you think is on the map, message me. Go to mapinblack.com and send me a message, or I'm on Instagram, mapinblack. Send me a message. Email me, celticmaps@gmail.com. I'd love to get your story and see if it has a place on the map.
That was going to be my next question. Do people send you stories a lot?
Not a lot.
Okay, that's
not
okay.
a lot. They usually just say, "Oh, you love your map, and we used it to go to this spot, and we saw this," but they don't really like. Once in a while, like when I talk to people, like when I have a booth, they'll say, like with Map in Black, I was at Scarefest in Lexington, and there was a guy at a booth across from me from Kansas, and he's like, "Oh, you need to have," I forget what it was. It was some old like hall, but kind of a mansion, like an old house.
Sure.
And he's like, "That's one of the most well known." And I looked it up and like, yeah, I totally didn't have that on the map, and there's not a lot of room for it, but I'm like, I'll squeeze it on the next edition. It seemed worthy, and as again, I wanted to have enough of a local presence. Like I just didn't find like one story on the internet. Like I wanted to find multiple sources, make sure that it was something that again had enough of a kind of a just get enough local history and people agree that the spot there's something going on.
Okay. And do you think that because you were mentioning the demographic of this, of course, and of course people have asked, they want a map for their state. Are you ever going to expand the maps?
Yes.
Okay. You don't have to say anything else. You don't have to promise a date or the next reveal. But I think people definitely want it. I think that's the next step, is the demand.
I think my job will never be done.
Sure.
There's 50 states. I don't know if I'll get to all 50, or maybe I'll group some of the smaller states. But I was talking to Andrew Smith, and you know Andrew because he is the curator of the Flatwoods Monster Museum.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
As well as the Braxton County Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Mm-hmm.
And he really wants a West Virginia map. So, and gosh, how weird is West Virginia?
Let me tell you, people that don't live in West Virginia will buy that map.
I know. Well, they better, because there's only 1 million people in West Virginia.
Right.
But of all the states that surround West Virginia, there are tens of millions of people that come to that state, love the terrain, love the history, love the cryptids. I think there will be no shortage of interest for a map like that for West Virginia.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I'm excited about more maps, of course, and you guys should be. If you don't have the maps already, again, there's a bunch of places you can find them. Hopefully your local bookstore. If not there, you can get them online. I will share the links down below to how you can contact Jeff and get your own map in black or the Hidden Ohio map. Pat, was there anything?
Doesn't have to,
go ahead.
It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be a bookstore. I've got places like these oddity shops.
Oh yeah.
The occult shops, the new age shops. Pat, there was a place, I can't remember the name, up in Chicago, but I found them last summer when I was up there. And I just called them. I said, "Hey, can I show you this map?" They're like, "Come on over. It's right in the city, up in one of the northern neighborhoods, and it's kind of an occult shop." a great selection of various things in the occult realm and New Age and witchcraft and stuff. So yeah, they took 20 maps, and I drove over there because I just wanted to see the neighborhood and see the store. And so I love these little shops. They're independently owned. These are the places I want to help just promote and share my product with.
Sure. Well, okay. I mean, if you guys have a local shop, you can take it where this map fits. Go in there and tell them that you heard about this map on Wednesdays We Talk Weird, and give them the information, and I'm sure they'll know what to do with it, or let us know, and we'll pass it along to Jeff and let him do his thing. So that's yeah. Pat, did you have anything else to add to the conversation here, Pat?
No, I liked Jeff's comment about language and how some of these paranormal experiences could be misidentified just because we don't have the proper language. Because it's interesting that language kind of acts as a conceptual map for things, the same way that what he does is label geographical stuff on a map, and language kind of does the same thing for how we perceive things.
Sure.
And we just don't have the process to hammer these things
we
down.
We can't describe it. So I was talking to somebody at CryptidCon, and I said, imagine if you're talking to somebody who's colorblind and you're trying to tell them about purples and reds and blues and greens. They're going to have no idea what you're talking about. And I just think we are missing. Maybe some of us have the senses to experience these things. I don't think I do. But I think that's just. I think there's a disconnect.
Interesting, you bring that up. I actually am colorblind, and
are you really?
Yeah, and about 2 years ago for my birthday, my wife and my mother-in-law got me these special prescription glasses that allow me to see in color.
Wow.
And I put them on for the first time, and it blew my fucking mind. And I don't wear them a lot. And they're always like, why don't you wear? We spent a lot of money on those things. And I appreciate the shit of it, but you cannot imagine how disorientating it is.
Wow.
To have, to go from, this is how I see things. This is fine. This is normal. And, my wife realized pretty early on that I didn't know how to dress myself. And it's like, she loves to fuck with me for being colorblind. She thinks that I see in black and white, and I don't.
Oh yeah, it's
like I don't see yellows, I don't see greens,
certain colors.
Yeah, it's stuff like that. And it is. I mean, you talk about perception creating reality. When I put those glasses on, it's like I'm in an overly saturated fucking acid trip nightmare.
Too much.
Yeah, and it's like I don't want to walk around like this, because then when you take them off, then it's like coming down and you're like, oh, this is kind of drab. And I don't like that either. So I just don't wear them.
That's a really great example then to explain it. When you do get a look into that world, how disorienting it can be. So the important question here is that is my hair red? Do you still see it as red?
No. It's like orange.
No, it's red.
No, but it's like bright red.
Have you ever looked at it with the glasses on and the glasses off?
No, I've never. No.
Will you do that?
Never put it right in my glass. Oh.
Let me know what it's like.
Yeah,
I'll bust them out. I should honestly wear them more because they did spend. Yeah, it was a big deal that they got it. It was a very nice present. I should honestly start trying to make use of them more.
I had no idea. You're my best friend. I had no idea you're colorblind. Wow, I'm an asshole.
No, well, how often does it? You don't question why I'm not really dressed normal. Well, I have jeans and a t-shirt whenever I see you, so it's like
that's true.
I could throw that together relatively well, but try to look at me like dress myself or put a suit on or try to match socks and a fucking tie or something, and it's a disaster.
I'm gonna ask everybody I meet now. The first question is gonna be, "Are you colorblind?" Just because I'm so shocked I didn't know. Well, anyway. No, that was a great point. I agree with that. I think that we just don't have the technology, I guess, if that's what you want to call it, the understanding, the science, whatever you want to call it, to explain these things, to really get it even a good idea. I say it all the time. I think we're all missing the mark. I don't think anybody's got it right yet, and hopefully, if anybody's going to do it and figure out what it is, it's going to be me. So There's that.
Keep on it. I have faith in you.
Everybody does. There's so much pressure now. But anyway, thank you so much for coming on. This has been wonderful.
Thanks for having me. I enjoy your show so much to be on here. I'm just tickled.
Oh, no, thanks for coming. This is episode 99. So we will be back next week with episode 100. We're not turning 100. That's not our birthday, right? That's just the episode count. Is that how that works?
You got to tell me when you started the show. I don't know.
Sometime in March. So the birthday's coming up. Yeah, it's almost our 2-year birthday. Oh my God.
Our 2-year birthday would be show 104. So, I mean, it was technically, because you never really missed a week.
You're right.
Yeah, so
I missed back. 1 week.
Yeah.
So we'll figure it out. Anyway, next week's episode 100. That's all I know. Hopefully you guys are here for that. I really enjoyed having the password on the last episode. I felt like it was great interaction. Jeff, what password should people give us to let us know that they listened to this whole episode? You get to choose.
Colorblind.
Perfect. That's what it is. If you guys listen to it up until this point, let me know by tweeting or messaging or whatever by saying colorblind. But until then, we'll see you guys back here next Wednesday.